Just say the word.
Hello and welcome.
Hi.
Hi. To Gamasutra's Thursday Classic Game stream. My name is Alex Wara. I'm an editor with Gamasutra, and joining me today is Gamasutra contributing editor Brian Francis. Hi, Brian. How you doing?
It's me.
Welcome back.
I love it when I actually get to appear on camera.
And you're looking very fine today, reporting in from the bowels of our corporate masters.
Yes, I've infiltrated those bowels, and I'm here on a mission, and it's not that interesting a mission, so I'll just watch you play Oblivion for a bit, because it's fun.
We will say no more. You're there on very secret business. And we are on a bit of semi-secret business today. We haven't done one of these old game streams in about a month, because we've had other...
Has it been a month?
It has. We did Morrowind about a month ago. And we were going to keep doing Morrowind for a bit, and then, something came up that I don't want to talk too much about in case it falls through. But there's a good chance we'll have a guest joining us next week. And so I wanted to go through Oblivion and get us through the first hour. And also, it turns out Brian has never played Oblivion. Brian, is that true?
Yeah, no, I mean, I actually don't have a great excuse on this one, because a lot of other old games we stream, I can make the excuse of being too young or having not heard of it. But Oblivion came out while I was in high school. A lot of my nerd friends were very excited about it. And I grew up in a suburb of Washington, D.C., near Bethesda, both the game company and the town. And it was a big deal around town because it was a, local game developer that got Patrick Stewart for the voice of the game. So it was all video games are serious business, and this local game company is serious business. And yet my only memory of Oblivion is watching my friend play through the first level at his house and showing me the skill system, and then watching and following a blog by, I think it's Chris Livingston, who's at I'm going to double check that, but it's Chris Livingston. He's at PC Gamer now, but he used to write this blog where he played through these games from the perspective of it. Like, he just tried to play as an NPC to not be heroic and not go on adventures, and yet he'd wind up in odd scenarios. So that was my memory of. Those are my Oblivion memories.
Yeah, so we're going to jump in here. You're going to watch this excellently produced cutscene featuring voiceover from Patrick Stewart.
Acclaimed actor of stage and screen, Patrick Stewart.
That's right. Remarkably ripped for being in his late 60s, I think now, actor Patrick Stewart. He's an inspiration to us all. I think these games are really interesting to go back and look at now, well over a decade later. This game came out in 2006 for... Xbox 360, PlayStation 3, and personal computers running the Windows operating system. And despite that, I think it occupies an interesting place in the legacy of Bethesda, who is maybe best known these days for Skyrim when it comes to Elder Scrolls. But this game was sort of like the predecessor to that, and introduces a lot of interesting gameplay mechanics and design tweaks that really were lauded, especially in Skyrim, and are kind of tested out here in a way.
And also, I mean, this was Skyrim before Skyrim. I do remember that. My friend has a joke, every time you mention, at the time, I think it was Oblivion, every time you mention Oblivion on Reddit, there's a spike in Oblivion sales on Steam, and a spike in piracy downloads, because we were in college and there was definitely a lot of piracy going on. I think it's that, at the, in my my student years, it was that game and Deus Ex were the two games I knew as, everyone, because Yahtzee had the joke about how every time you mentioned Deus Ex, everyone would go restart Deus Ex and then remember how old the game looked, and then stop playing after the first level.
That's the joke.
Yeah. So we talk about Skyrim being the big one right now, but I remember Oblivion was the big one, and I think that was in large part because this was the first Elder Scrolls game on console, right?
No, Morrowind was on Xbox, but this was the first one that kind of, I think, broke big.
So I'm wrong there.
Well, I mean, I think Morrowind on Xbox is cherished by a lot of people who owned the original Xbox, but that console maybe didn't really get into the market in the way that the 360 did. So when this came out in 360, I think it was a much bigger deal, in part because the console itself had a much wider audience base.
It was. I mean, it was a fantasy game. It was a huge fantasy game with that huge Morrowind skill system on a console that almost everyone owned. So I think, much like many other, like the Xbox 360, I think of as a console. Some people talked about it being a Madden, Netflix, and Halo machine, but I think it also did get people who just played video games on a more, like, Elder Scrolls went from being kind of like, I told the story last time about how my German friend thought Morrowind was the best RPG ever, and now, like, I think Oblivion took the Elder Scrolls mainstream, if you will.
All right, so I need your help.
Yeah,
because we face a crucial decision. Our goal in the next hour is to get through this opening section and see some interesting things, but we need to pick an avatar.
Argonian.
Okay, all right, that was easy. Do you want?
We got to compare the walk animation from the one in Morrowind.
That's right, I'd forgotten about that. What would you prefer, a male Argonian or the female Argonian?
Female.
All right. Ooh, I like the idea of jeweled fins. Here we go. Let's keep jeweled fins. Let's go there. Let's make them nice and robust. Let's be a little older, you know.
Yeah, I like playing. My new habit for Elder Scrolls games when I put them up is to create an older woman as a character, just because that is obviously not something that you get to play as in a lot of games, and also because I think it's really just against type, amusingly against type to like have everyone treat you like though you're the hero of this epic world, and you're like kind of like, you know, like an over the hill, like, especially if you can use the character creator to look really old, like you look like you're like 2 steps from the grave, and yet you can just go around and murder everyone with an axe.
I confess I'm a little out of my depth here. What do you think would be an appropriate name for a lady lizard?
Samantha.
Okay. All right. That's a good one. What about like Salamantha? Is that too bad?
Yeah, Salamantha, if you really want to make it a pun.
Yes, let's be an Argonian. All right, now we're gonna have to sort of. We're gonna sit tight here as we go through our opening sort of.
Dagger's Oath wants to contradict everything we've said so far and say that Neverwinter Nights was the best RPG ever. Sorry to all Elder Scrolls fans.
Yeah, I mean, please feel free to jump in the comments with interesting counterpoints, but maybe back that up. The question comes down to a player's understanding of what it is about an RPG that they appreciate. So, like,
and what it is about good role playing, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I'd say Tyranny is one of the top role playing games of all time right now, but no one's played it, so no one cares.
Wow. I wouldn't say it's the top, but I would say it's one of the most interesting ones that have been put out in the last 10 years. It's also, like, you know, very well made. There's no problems with it, but it's just so interesting, and I wish more people would try interesting things with that kind of budget and that kind of scope.
I absolutely think... to me, what I think, like, because I've had to think about what RPGs are and what makes, you know, talking to designers, what makes good RPG design. And I think what I feel like RPGs are a mix of interacting with dialogue systems and interacting with a mix of very numbersy systems, like both through randomization and decision making, to create character moments. I think that's the broadest way to put it, because there's a difference between, like, you can say Horizon Zero Dawn is RPG elements, but because that game is basically just make your numbers go up and then make all your most interesting choices tend to be around surviving individual fights. I would not say that's an RPG in the way, like, even though I think Horizon Zero Dawn has a lot going for it, it's nowhere near as good to quote a role-playing game as the Elder Scrolls, Tyranny. Like, it's a little bit apples and oranges, and it's so I think. But I think what I like about that definition is it means older games like Neverwinter Nights can still go just as hard as newer games like Tyranny or Skyrim.
As for what you have done, it does not matter.
Yeah, I think
that is not
one of the chief selling points of games that are designed, and I, you know, like, this is an obvious takeaway, but like the chief selling point here is immersion, right? It's playing your own chosen role, not playing a role that's been put upon you.
And like what I love about like the numbers driven means of it is like I said, it's just such a time immemorial system. Like Dungeons and Dragons is still as good at being immersive as it was with first edition.
So
if not better.
when this game came out in 2006, I had played Morrowind like we talked about last month, and I was it was the first one I played, first Bethesda game I played, and I loved it, and I couldn't wait for this. It was like the last game I ever really anticipated as a fan, and
As a pro gamer.
as an elite pro gamer. And I remember when it came out, unlike Tiberian Sun, which like let me down as a teen in a really big way, this game was amazing, and I'll show you why. It is. Oh, that's not why. It is. Oh, that's not why either. Well, I'll show you why later. Ah, there it is. This is why.
I'm as delayed as everyone at home.
That's a good point. Well, when the stream catches up, you're going to see me doing something dumb, and this is what made this game so amazing, is that it had an enhanced physics system powered by the Havoc physics engine.
Right.
And this was a big deal. Like, in Morrowind, like I think I showed you last month, you couldn't really do this, and now being able to pick and move things around, put baskets on people's heads, is kind of an established part of what an Elder Scrolls or Fallout game is.
Yeah.
And this is where it really came into its own.
I would have encountered this system for the first time when I played Fallout 3 in college, and I don't remember it blowing my mind per se, but I remember it being useful.
Yeah. Well, that's because you are a charming young man who sees the world through wide eyes, and you didn't play the dark times that were Morrowind, where things just were mostly. There was like some physics stuff would fall and everything, but there wasn't.
Bodies would fall from the sky.
Yeah, exactly.
Characters would launch themselves across the landscape.
It wasn't quite to this extent, and definitely the development team seems to be very aware of that and very excited to play with that, because you're going to see in this opening intro dungeon, there are multiple sections where the player is like blatantly encouraged to pick up things and move them around and play with things.
Yeah. So like I think something that's worth paying attention to here is ages ago we had a conversation with Brett DeVille, who worked on Skyrim, and I think he said he worked a bit on Fallout 3. And someone came in the chat to say that he helped like save all the coding efforts that was going on. And I think it's it's always like I think we're always like giving ourselves a bit of a crutch when we say we're replaying an opening level to examine the design, because obviously opening levels matter, and we're really just hiding the fact that we don't have time to play these games for hours and hours. But at the same time, it's actually worth, like, what we learned from Brett was an incredible amount of work goes into the opening areas of Bethesda games, because they aren't just they aren't just teaching players things. They're also areas where the designers and developers were testing and bug testing and QAing things. Like, I remember back on the Skyrim talk, he was telling us that first dungeon you go through was one they ran through over and over again to test, like, hey, did you break it? Did the code you just put in break the game? Check this dungeon, it'll probably tell you.
Right.
I do think what's more interesting is, like you just said, this game introduced many new features in its tutorial, and it obviously, like in an Elder Scrolls game, you wake up, you're a prisoner, circumstances happen, and then you're a hero.
Yep.
And you're punching rats.
Yep.
I remember the rat punching.
Classic.
From watching my friend play it. I think what's in comparing this to the Skyrim intro is the Skyrim intro is actually not as strong as this one, because it doesn't do as like you showed me right away in that prison. You're able to pick up objects and start moving the chains around. The Skyrim intro, you're stuck on that stupid cart just looking around a foggy hill. Like, you're not rolling over the landscapes of Skyrim. We just had James Portnow of Extra Credits on yesterday, and I was making fun of him for not being able to remember all his episodes. But they did an episode where they compared Skyrim's entry versus older Elder Scrolls entry, and they were not very kind to the fact that, like, you don't get to see the large breadth of Skyrim's world until the way end of that tutorial. And that was kind of like the big tech advancement there, because by then picking things up was old hat, right?
Yeah.
But this game,
take a minute to really appreciate how this bucket responds to this arrow.
Yeah. Waiting for it.
That's right. There's the arrow. This was a huge deal in 2006. I was so impressed.
Yeah.
I spent hours with my friends just goofing around in these open areas.
Yeah.
Which is really silly now, but you know.
Well, no, I was actually fun. I mean, I was actually just talking to someone in the office. There's like, we were talking about the way younger people play games like this, and how, like, you sort of make your own games inside of games.
Yeah.
And I think this is, I mean, just messing around with objects and in opening areas of Elder Scrolls games is certainly like, I mean, it's partly what they were selling, for $60 is you can be a medieval just dork
Oh boy!
as much as you
how
can
to
be a
do
medieval
this.
hero.
Oh nope. There we go.
Oh man! Oh wow! This lock picking system.
Yeah. I always
This
kind of
is
like this one actually. There's a different one. It seems like in almost every game, but this one.
No. They've all. It's basically the Fallout 3 one, or at least for Elder Scrolls ones. The Fallout 3 one is now the default one.
All right, here we go.
Yeah, it's funny because this is the Havoc engine. It looks closer to my experience with Bethesda games.
Yeah.
Like this isn't as. Oh, you know to go to in the third person view.
Yeah, sure. Classic.
We need to check out that walk animation.
Yeah, so I can't remember how to get the camera to spin around. I'm sort of embarrassed to admit this. There is definitely a button you can hold.
Yeah.
Maybe it's all right. Well, I guess I'll have
But
to
see,
look
this is
again.
definitely way less schwiggity than the last one.
You mean way less fun? This is way less fun than it
No. It's way less schwiggity.
Coming
Coming for that booty.
what's interesting, and I think is probably forgotten about these games, unless you were a diehard fan watching them come out, is that each game gets a little simpler, a little more streamlined. So we didn't get to this in Morrowind because we stopped streaming it, but there's a much more robust skills. Maybe robust is the wrong word. There are a lot more skills in Morrowind, and there's more you can do in like the magic system. You can make your own spells, and you can be skilled in like unarmed and punt and skilled in, I'm not sure what the word is, but basically skilled in being naked. Like you're really good at fighting without armor. And like spears and stuff, and that's all gone in this game. And then in Skyrim it gets even more sort of like slimmed down and focused. And that I think is probably the right decision. But I can remember being a fan and being
I feel I actually talked to developers about this sort of thing, about the sort of more nutsy boltsy, like mess with more dials and levers kind of things of old RPGs. And I feel like that transition has happened because of a broadening audience for this kind of game. And there's an inherent desire to say, oh man, but that means like the old designs, and there's never been any chance to like make those old designs work.
That was some Doom 2. That was some Doom level like enemy on enemy there. Oh.
Yeah. But I think it's weird.
What, zombies are weird? You think zombies are weird? Well, let's see if we can remember how to cast spells.
I would like it's weird, like there's an sorry, I completely got lost on my train of thought there.
No, it's okay.
There's a desire to say older RPG systems are so good that they need to be preserved, and like it's a shame that they get streamlined for an audience who, quote, doesn't want to interact with it. But that doesn't necessarily mean like the old system was good just because more of us were willing to put up with its nonsense, if you get my meaning.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
I think also, Alex, you've muted yourself somehow, I think.
Well, no, I'm right here with you. You can't hear me?
I would like to just... Yeah, Alex, I can't hear you at all.
No, what happened? I've been here the whole time.
You. I muted you.
You monster.
I'm sorry, I did that.
I'm going. You can play.
Yeah. Ruining the stream, Brian. Like that's like a weird fit. That's like, I feel like there's a balancing act there where developers and players alike are like sitting here saying like games used to be better because they had more like intricate systems and weren't so dumbed down. But then you're like, wait, we put up with a lot of nonsense sometimes. Like you just look back at old games and it's like, why do we put up with that? It's like we were talking about yesterday in regards to accessibility, is not everything in the game is a challenge. Sometimes it's just a barrier that some people are able to overcome and other people aren't. Dagger's Oath, I actually literally was just opining about that